Good morning, every day.
Good morning, Reverend Ann.
Living in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Living in the moment. So can't we just decide that we're living in the moment and that right now is the juiciest moment ever?
Yes.
Ever. This moment has never been lived before. This breath has never been breathed before. Yowza. So I'm Reverend Ann Rea, otherwise known as the Rev Ann, Rev A, just Ann. And I get to have this amazing community of the Everyday Center for Spiritual Living as my spiritual family. Every day. Today, now you might remember, or not, that the topic for the month is Heaven's Right Here. And today, my talk title is Prove Me Now. How many people know where that's from? Well, you don't count because you've heard me talk about it so much. So Prove Me Now is from Malachi 3:11 and 12. And when I was doing some research about Malachi, I have to tell you, I'm not going to share with you all of the interesting stuff that I discovered, but the ideas and the theologians who have collected these ideas about how the Old Testament was written, because it varies from being, I'll just throw in this little piece of news, it varies between being written by 40 different men, exactly, or potentially way more than that, if we factor in, that's a lovely tune, is that God Calling? Just for you. It is for me. That's right. Or way more than that, over hundreds of years and hundreds, because every time someone put their hands on a translation, they were influenced by their own opinions, beliefs, etc. But we'll start with Malachi. Now, Malachi was considered to be, or believed to be, or is considered to be and believed to be, the last of the great prophets, which is why his book is last in the Old Testament. And the importance of what he suggests in his book, what he allegedly suggests in his book, but we're going to give Malachi full credit since we don't know differently. The importance of what he suggests in his book, although he's not the only one, who suggests the coming of a new way, the coming of an evolution, the coming of a transformation that cannot be imagined. Billy, would you like the shade? Okay, never mind. Just checking. And in 3:11 and 12, now the belief is, and actually this is a pretty shared belief, that all of the contributors to the Bible, regardless of however many they were, not only were they influenced by their own ideas, experience, and so on, but the commonly held belief is that first and foremost, they were allowing the voice of the divine, the universal, the spirit, the one life, to speak through them. And in Malachi, this is the one and only time that there's any word of money, other than the guys in the temple who were, gambling and all that stuff. Anyway, so allegedly, God said through Malachi, "Prove me now, saith the Lord of hosts." This is the way he allegedly wrote it. "Saith the Lord of hosts." And when I was thinking about it, I'm going to interrupt myself for a second, because one of the things that's also believed is that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Old Testament. But writing wasn't so evolved then. You know what I mean? Getting things on tablets or paper or parchment or whatever it was that they used was not so evolved. Anyway, I found that curious. But he says, "Prove me now, saith the Lord of hosts. Bring your tithes." Now, I don't believe for a second he used the word tithes. It was used later because tithes is a later word, etymologically speaking. Aren't you impressed? "To my storehouse," which at the time, historically, there were at the temples and the places of worship, there were special rooms built for supplies supplies were people sharing their crops. And as I mentioned before, how the whole tithing thing happened was way before there was any use of it as being owed. Ancient peoples shared 10% or plowed back in, one or the other, 10% of whatever it was that they had, that they grew, and this was to benefit not only the land, but the community. And they felt that this was a way of honoring the divine, the multiple gods, whatever it was that they felt was the source. And I'm so glad that word came up in Carol's reading because we're going to talk about source a little bit. It was a way of honoring the source of this good and saying, thank you. Thank you. We don't need this 10% for ourselves. We will share it either among our community or by plowing it into the ground to nurture the ground in gratitude. So from the get-go, the thing that is now called tithing, which is 10%, literally when you go back to the etymological source of the word, and I don't know that they knew fractions either then. But the point is that he goes on to say, this is really the juicy part. He goes on to say, bring your goods, fill my storehouse, and I will pour you out a blessing that you cannot contain. So this is not only an invitation, it's a promise. And why is this particular phrase out of the Bible so valuable to me? It's my favorite. Because it is if we look at the bigger picture of this statement, it is a provable, usable, measurable way for human beings who need provable, usable, measurable ways to say, okay, if I do this, if I give you this, if I give this, then I can look for that to come back. Multiplied and pouring over. A blessing such that you cannot contain it. It's not tit for tat. It's not dollar for dollar. It is, I will overwhelm you with this blessing of good. So what's the point? Is the point, in my view, what's the point? Is the point to, as some faith traditions suggest, to give 10%? I mean, in fact, this showed up in my research, where there are faith traditions that teach that if you don't give 10%, then you can't expect a blessing at all. Now, frankly, my God is bigger than that. What's important always is the attitude of the gift. Giving because we choose to. Giving from a place of generosity. It doesn't, if we put a quarter in the basket on Sunday, let's say, or we're in line with someone at the market. Have you ever been in line with someone at the market who was just a little short? Mm-hmm. I don't mean stature-wise. I mean, they just needed a couple of dollars to be able to pay for their groceries. I've been in line with someone like that, and if I had a couple of dollars, I was happy to offer it to them. Happy to. It's the attitude of the giving. Yeah. It's not It has nothing to do with the amount. I cannot, nor will I ever, believe for a second that the one life, the one power, the one presence, this loving, gracious, amazingly creative, and constantly expressive one would ever hold anyone in anything less than the highest regard because their giving was less than 10%.
Yeah.
And do you know why I can't imagine it? Why I'll never believe it? Do you know why?
Why?
Because we are that.
Right.
That life is our life, living and revealing itself through us. So I can easily believe that the inspiration for these words, I can easily imagine that the inspiration for the words, "Prove me now, saith the Lord of hosts, and fill my storehouse, and I will pour you out a blessing that you cannot contain." I can easily believe that that came as an inspiration that was divinely sourced. But this business of holding anybody accountable because it doesn't come up to snuff, whatever that is. Well, I know what snuff is. Is. That just doesn't make sense to me. So, what's important to focus on is two things. One is our attitude about giving.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's giving our time, giving our attention, giving our help, giving our money, whatever we give, whenever we give it. If we catch ourselves feeling even the teeniest, weeniest bit of resentment, or like, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's not giving. Giving is always gracious. Giving is always generous. Giving is always, true giving is always an open-hearted experience. If we catch ourselves feeling resentment, or feeling like it's too much, or feeling anything less than the open-heartedness that I'm talking about, don't do it. Find another way to support your friend. Find another way to be supportive of the person in line. Find another way to be supportive of your spiritual home. Find another way to be supportive of those things that give to you. But this is not about putting ourselves in a state of angst over, well, it has to be so much. That's not right. Now, the blessing part. So, it's kind of funny to me that in this case, in this instance, the universe, God, Spirit, Harry, would have said, "And I will pour you out a blessing such that you cannot contain." If you you stop and think about it, that's a joke. None of you are laughing. But it's a joke. And the reason it's a joke is because that's what happens anyway. The blessing that we are constantly in the midst of is continuous. No matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what. Okay, so let's go back to the basics. There's one life. That life is all life. Everywhere we look, every life that has ever been, every kind of life that has ever been, every kind of life that will ever be, there is one. That life is my life and our life and all life, period. Because there is no separation. There is only one. And that one expresses individually and uniquely as us, as each individual juniper, as each individual deer, as each individual anything. Uniquely, individually, and importantly, we're all here for a reason. And it has no other option but to support itself.
Mm.
And it does so by pouring out a blessing that we cannot contain. Now, what does it mean that we cannot contain it? Because wouldn't we want to imagine ourselves being able to contain a blessing of any size, right? Of any quantity? But are you noticing that kind of blessing in your life right now? Where, well, Jackie, I can't count you. But many of us are not. We're not noticing that kind of a blessing in our life right now because we're very busy noticing what we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Or noticing what we don't have a sufficiency of. Okay, so what kind of sense does that make? If there's one life, and it's all life, and it supports itself unequivocally, without exception, without restriction, without limitation, why in the world would we ever feel that there's insufficiency either for ourselves or someone else? Well, I know you know, but I'm going to help you out. We imagine that more would be better. More of something would be better. Now, I'm not saying that more of something would be better, but just imagining that more of something would be better is not the same thing as co-creating it.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have at our disposal, because it is who we are, it is the essence of who we are, what we have at our disposal is pure source. It's not our Social Security. It's not our wages. It's not the monies that come to us in whatever way we do. In fact, it's not money at all. Because all of that, the money, the Social Security, the wages, the whatever, that is all avenues through which source works.
Mm-hmm.
But the flow can come in ways, we tend to see only what we see.
Mm-hmm.
So if all that we see is a Social Security check, is a wage, is money coming from an inheritance, is whatever it is, if that's all we see and we consider that the source of our good, then that's all we're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we know from our learning, from our studies of this philosophy, is that we can only contain what we can embody. We can only receive what we can embody, which means it's not show me the stuff and then I'll believe it. It's not show me the goodies and then I'll get ready to accept it. I'm getting ready now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing everything that I can every day to prepare for the most amazing day and all of its riches now. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to believe in something happening later down the road, because everything is as possible now as it will be later down the road.
Right.
So I'm getting ready now so that the blessing that pours into my life, the blessings that continually pour into my life, that I'm awake to them, that I'm aware of them, that I am in gratitude for them, that I accept, that I allow, that I receive with great joy, and that I share with generosity. Because it is my pleasure to do so.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that if I share it, there won't be enough. That's not what that statement says. That statement says if you share it with graciousness, that I'll pour you out a blessing you can't contain.
Right.
So, for those of you who want to wait, you can sit on that side of the room. And for those of you who are done waiting, you can move to that side of the room. No, I'm kidding. I'm just inviting us all to notice what we're noticing. Notice what we're paying attention to. Notice how we're judging what's enough, what's plenty. We decide what's enough and what's plenty. Nobody else decides what's enough and what's plenty. I don't care what's published in the paper, and I don't care what they say on the news. Nobody else decides but us.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm